Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of Bring It On. My name is Bob Hayes and I'm going to be your host for today's show. I have Joseph Weeks with me this afternoon, and he is one of the 4 candidates for 2 spots on the Board of Selectmen. Joe, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
Yay, thanks for coming in. It's always good to see that we have choices when we come into races. And this year, as I said, we have 4 people running for 2 seats. Mm-hmm. Joe, give the people that are the viewers a little background of Joseph Weeks. Family, history,
Absolutely.
Where you live.
So I live on 83 Hancock Street, and you probably recognize it as the house that we dress up for Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas, the whole 9 yards. We're the ones that are in the neighborhood that everyone kind of looks at and says, how do you fit that many lights onto your house in your neighborhood? So we live on 83 Hancock Street. We do a lot of that. My wife is Stacy Weeks, formerly known as Stacy Russo, for those that have been around the town for a while. I am the father of 3 beautiful little girls. Elizabeth, who's going to be 6 on May 18th. Lucky girl, has the birthday right before Election Day. She's my campaign manager, by the way. She's fantastic. We have Kennedy, who's 4.5. She's amazing, smart little girl, very involved in everything. And she's my little dancer. She loves dancing, loves singing. And then we have Reagan, who is 7 months old, and she is a spitting image of me, for better or worse. So we love her. She's the happiest baby you're ever going to see. She's fantastic. And we've been living in town for basically our entire lives. My wife's family goes back all the way to Marcus Sharan with the Ocean Spray and the Cranberry Building, and that's a legacy that we're very proud of in the family. And we have lots of family here. Grandparents lived here for a long time, and Hanson's our home. We love it.
Awesome. Well, a guy that's married, lives in Hanson, has 3 beautiful girls, in a busy life. What makes you want to run for the Board of Selectmen? I know that you've been on several committees, so you might want to start with some of the stuff you've done for the town as a volunteer.
Yeah, so for the town, I've been on the Capital Improvement Committee for about 7 years now. It actually might be going on 8 at this point. I love that. Met some great people there. Gave me some great understanding of some of the big plans, the financial plans, and some of the priorities that we've made over the past few years and continue to make. Made great friends there. It's a great opportunity. Been on the Housing Authority for 6 years now, and it's been another great experience. We've learned a lot about 40B, 40R type of projects that have been going on. A lot of cost of living stuff that we've been focusing on with the residents for the various properties. And I just want to give a shout out to Bob Sears, whose last meeting is going to be on May 10th. And we love you, Bob. We don't want to see you go. But we've met some great folks there, doing a lot of great things. And we've had a lot of great success in understanding the matrix for that, quality of life stuff. We've made a lot of good friends in there. And then and I'm the current chair of that, I should say. And I'm also the chair of the planning board. I've been on the planning board. This is going to be my 5th year. My term ends on May 19th. And I've been the chair of that for 2 years. And I've learned a whole host of different things. I've met lots of great people, learned a lot about developments, a lot about water management, how to develop properties, a lot of things that you really have to kind of be very much involved in to really understand the developmental aspect of the town. Plus, we have some great projects that we've started there that would actually fit quite nicely into a selectman seat, which is why I'm actually running. So I'm coming off those committees, and I'm hoping that on May 19th, I'll be starting a new adventure, sitting on the Board of Selectmen, and be able to take a lot of those projects that we started with those committees, with those great people, as well as many of the projects that are happening under the Board of Selectmen right now, and take that experience and utilize it to represent the town in their best interests.
Well, Joe, having a lot of history, as you've just told us, whether it's planning board or any of the matrices of the other things that you've done in town, and it all fits into what the plan is for some people that might want to be on the Board of Selectmen. What do you see for the future, Hanson? I mean, there's a lot of different issues that Hanson faces.
Yeah, I don't even know if we can talk about them all in a half an hour, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I'll run you pretty quick right
now.
Yeah.
You'll run me quick. You always hold my feet to the fire, which is a great thing. The big one, the most immediate one, are our schools. We have a bunch of different school articles coming up at the May town meeting, which is on the 7th. And, we're going to see what happens as a result of those votes. With that being said, we are doing the reshuffling of the schools. McQuon's closing down. We got to also figure out what's going to happen with that building. what's going to happen with the kids there, although with our plans in place. I don't really believe in anything until the ink's dry, so I've got to make sure that it all goes off without a hitch. And then maintain the schools where they are. So make sure that we're mindful with the planning. We have budget issues coming up, as you're very much aware of, and what that's going to look like not just this year, but the next year and the year after that. So I'd like to be very much involved with that. I think I got a great working relationship with a lot of folks on the school committee, so I'd like to be able to use that to the advantage of the townspeople. In addition to that, we also have to figure out what to do with the McQuon School, what that's going to look like. We also have a couple proposals for 40Bs, and we might have a 40R, not really sure. We're going to see what happens with that. These are things that aren't just going to happen now, but the Board of Selectmen seat is a 3-year term. So not only am I having to think about what's going to happen right now with the projects that are happening, but what it's going to look like 3 years from now, because the person that you put in that seat is going to have 3 years to have to try to make this work. And what's interesting about the Board of Selectmen is that you really can't learn as you go, not with these projects. What I think I have that's really going to benefit me is a good understanding of these projects now, so that when I do hopefully get that seat, I can hit the ground running because of our interactions with the Board of Selectmen setting up some of these projects, but also the consistency and the longevity of being able to work on those projects. That's just two. We have the transfer station and what that's going to look like. We have some articles coming up at the town meeting, but we also want to look at that current arrangement as well as the enterprise fund, what that looks like. That's going to be a big project. We also have the complete streets projects, including the tip projects. That has the potential to rearrange the structure of the center of town and some very key important parts within the town. I've been very fortunate as the chair of the planning board to sit in on some of these meetings to really get a good understanding of what that's going to look like. In addition to that, we have articles for the marijuana establishments that are going to come down the pike. We'll see what happens on May 7th. We also have the cell tower articles that may result in negotiations for cell tower placements later on. I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I have some communication with these people, and I have a good footing on where these projects might take us. I could keep going, but I know that you're going to stop me anyways. So, that's just tip of the iceberg.
Well, Joe, you touched on Main Street, and as I asked the other candidates, what do you do with Main Street in Hanson? It used to be the center of town. It was the Cranberry Company. It was the heartbeat of Hanson, so to speak. And then when the Cranberry Company moved out and things kind of got a little bit in disarray over there on Main Street, businesses come and businesses go. Do you have any just insight on what you think might be able something to liven it up?
Yeah.
And I know this is a hard question.
Well, it's a very hard question, but it's also a personal question because, like I said earlier in the intro, that the Cranberry Building in particular, which is on Main Street, is part of our family legacy that I married into. And as a result of that, I really take pride in that whole area, not just as a citizen of Hanson, but as someone that really cares about the legacy that's built into those bricks and the mortar of that building and that whole area. So we have a bunch of different ways we can go about this. I'd like to see more businesses go in there. I'd like to see the whole place revitalized. We are doing some zoning overlays that may help with the businesses going in there, make it a little bit easier for folks. But the Complete Streets project, we'd like to get some more sidewalks, clean that up a little bit. I do know that Representative Cutler got some solar panels for that area for the train station, so hopefully the ambiance of that will brighten things up a little bit. But I'd like to get sidewalks down there, get some businesses in there, and really speak with the owners. We had talks years ago about trying to revitalize that building just in general and how we can kind of get people in. I think this might be an opportunity for the community to come together and potentially try to see what we can do to really set the stage for some great businesses, maybe condos, something along those lines that the town can really back, and then we'll see where that takes us. But I think that we got to get sidewalks down there. We got to beautify the area. I'd like to get businesses down there. We'd like to see if there's a combination of those things. There's been a few talks.
Well, winding into the next project that's been a busy, busy project in Hanson for 20-on years, and it's finally cleaned up, Plymouth County Hospital. What do you do there? It kind of is in the same vicinity of beautiful High Street. I mean, High Street's one of the nicest streets and one of the oldest streets in town, and not only in town, but in the county. And there's been lots of discussion, High Street being one of the highest points in Plymouth County.
Yeah.
Cell tower, Plymouth County Hospital, what do you think?
Well, I think I like a park there. I think that a park might be one of the main attractions. I think Hanson is a place where we can have a park. We could have walking trails, areas around there that would really kind of help beautify the area even more so than it already is. If, in fact, we do want to put a cell phone tower down there, I'm not exactly against it. It just depends on where. I think some of these questions, although are incredibly important, I don't want to kind of pigeonhole and say that we could just stick one anywhere. The idea would be where? Does it blend into the area? And does it make sense for that area? I'm never going to be closed-minded to an option, but I got to make sure it is the right option. You want to go in there kind of being mindful. So I don't want to kind of say yes or no to one of those types of questions. But I am open to that idea. But I think I ideally like to see a park down there. I'd like to see a place where just people can just walk some trails, be part of it. I know the final Plymouth County Reuse Committee is down there really trying to figure out what they're going to do. And I know that there is a meeting coming up, I believe on the 9th. I'll plug that too. Hopefully I got the date right. And they're looking for input as well. So I think that that's incredibly important.
Well, kudos to the Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee because they have done just an incredible job getting that site cleaned up. And it's a beautiful area, and it's something that I think residents have wanted for 25 years, and it's finally done, so it's awesome. And I stand corrected. I do this just out of habit. I asked a couple of questions of previous candidates, and we're going to move on to Pleasant Street, Hawks Avenue, where we're talking about putting a highway department. Yep. And I usually use the term DPW. Yep. And last night, I'm dating the show, and I'm going to yell that by Mr. Tachi.
Yep. You got bags.
I happened to say DPW too many times, and somebody came up and said, "Bob, we have a highway department." I said, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Highway building.
Yeah.
Down on Hawks Ave, old light control property.
Yeah, I'm not against it. I think I don't want to misspeak on this, but I think that they said they haven't met in a while. The committee that oversees, the subcommittee that oversees that, because there hasn't been a lot of progress made on that. But I'm not against it by any means. I think that whatever the best bang for the buck is, that's in the best interest of the town, should be pursued. I think it needs to be methodical because it is a large expense and there's a lot of moving parts down there. But I'm by no means against that.
I understand. I don't believe it's on this particular town meeting that's coming up on May 7th. And as you're watching, ladies and gentlemen, we urge you to attend town meeting, which is this coming Monday night, May 7th. And again, I'm dating the show. I'm getting yelled at from the back room out there. But it is Monday, May 7th, and we urge you to come to Hanson Middle School because we're going to need a quorum of voters, and there's a lot of important things. I believe there's 34 or 5 articles on the regular and 16 or something on the special.
That's exactly right.
So it's very important. But Joe, this time is about you. So moving forward on that, and I know that these are all important things to you. We've gone to Main Street, we've gone to the Highway Bond, we've gone to Plymouth County Hospital. Let's move over towards Shaw's, the center of what is now the center of town, what used to be Walkies, and then it was Brockton Public Market, and now it's Shaw's. And it's pretty filled up over there.
Yes. So what to do with it?
Well, you see it there. There's a pretty big tract of land. I guess if you're looking at Shaw's to the right, that there's some talk is going to be developed, and I believe that is in front of the Housing Authority.
As of right now, it's not. They've kind of teased the idea of something coming before us, but the Housing Authority hasn't received anything yet, as of yet. Nothing official anyways. And if they have, it's probably gone to Tom Tebow, the executive director, and hasn't reached us yet. But that being said, we do, since you're speaking of the Shaw's area, part of the Complete Streets project that we've been talking about for a while is to revitalize that area. It's a huge area of concern for anybody that drives there, anybody that knows or visits the Dunkin' Donuts there frequently, knows how dangerous of an intersection that could be at times. So to address that question, hopefully in a straightforward way, is the Complete Streets project is looking at how to take that area, which has a potential for danger, and really change it in a way that the flow of traffic is improved dramatically, that people don't get into accidents or fear of getting into an accident taking that turn into that area, and also beautifying right in front of the town hall. We've been fortunate since I've been on the planning board to be talking about that for at least 3 years now, I want to say. And that's a project that does get kicked up to the Board of Selectmen. They're ultimately in charge of it. But we've been very much involved in the process from the get-go, and I think that there are some great plans in place to really see how we can develop that area and make it look more appealing, not only cosmetically, but to drive down there. So,
Joe, there's discussion about continuing the sidewalks from School Street all the way past what used to be Wilkie's, now I'm dating myself, and goes all the way down and hooks into Pembroke on Route 14. How's that, what's going on with that project?
well, that's going to be part of some projects that we have coming down the pike. And for me, I'm all for sidewalks. I'd like to get as many sidewalks as we possibly can. They're still in the preliminary stages, and I'm not as privy to all of the day-to-day meetings because it's outside the scope of what we did as a planning board, although we did, through the town planner, kind of introduce some of those projects. But we're trying to get some sidewalks down there because it's incredibly important.
Another big project in the town of Hanson is Camp Kewanee.
Yes.
One of the most beautiful assets that the town of Hanson has. It's just one of the most gorgeous properties. Every time I travel down there, I get more and more like,
Yeah.
what a beautiful place.
We're lucky to have it.
We are very lucky to have it. Any ideas?
Well, I think they're doing a great job down there. I think that I've been involved in Camp Kewanee for, 30 years at least. I learned to swim down there. My family is a regular down there. My wife is always bringing the girls down there, and they've met a lot of their friends as a result of that. My girls learned to swim, and as another shout out, Emma from the Cove, you know who you are. Elizabeth loves you, talks about you all the time. Taught my daughter how to swim. And, I just like to make sure that we continue to maintain it. This is something that we've been involved in terms of the Capital Improvement Committee to try to help set aside some funds when we can to try to beautify the area and continue to keep with the upkeep. I know we have some articles coming up on the warrant to help with that. I think it's on the special town meeting warrant to help assist with that area as well, putting in a septic system, I believe. But I think we have to keep it at the forefront of our minds. It's a great resource that we have. My family's been using it for generations. It's incredibly important that we take pride in that. We continue to build that momentum.
Joe, it's probably a subject that's been talked about for many, many years, and it's a difficult question because there's no real solid answer. I mean, I've been in business for myself for almost 39 years, and I don't think I could answer this question. But how do you bring more taxes into the town without burdening the town, i.e. business? I mean, we've got some big businesses down there on Route 27,
Yep.
and I believe there's still some properties that could be produced. And it's hard. It's a tough question because, I mean, Lipinski's Farm is down there on the edge of Franklin Street where everybody doesn't know. And it's a beautiful asset, not only to the people, but the food that he produces is tremendous.
Yes.
How do we get more of that, get more people?
Right. They're a fantastic family, by the way. I went to high school with some of their sons, and I adore that family. I think that's not a simple answer.
No, I told you, it's
yeah.
a difficult question.
Yeah, so I'm going to try and solve that problem in the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Honestly, I think that the complete streets projects, the tip projects, improving the roadways, the walkways, some of the overlays that we're not only introducing but have introduced to the town through the planning board and vice versa, will assist with bringing more businesses in. Because one of the biggest issues that you tend to see is that there's not a lot of walking area in the center of town that people can really feel comfortable just kind of walking to places. And on a day like today, for example, where it's gorgeous out, it'd be great to be able to just walk to a store because you're able to do that. The Complete Streets project also allows for bike paths so people can feel comfortable biking down the road because they'll have their own space to do that and it won't be too intrusive on traffic or pedestrians walking around. So I think the first step is improving the roadways to ensure that there's more foot traffic. I think that you're going to find people exploring it more and being more open to that. Also, just providing the opportunity to exercise those roadways. We are really, Hanson is in a great spot because we're 20 minutes from any highway, which is great for the ambiance of being in a town like this. It's great because it's nice and quiet, and it's not too far that you can't, just drive a few minutes and get to a highway. It's fine. But for the issues in the town, I think we have to be more friendly to businesses. We have to be able to meet them where they're at, provide an opportunity for parking, for foot traffic, and beautify the area. I think if we beautify the area, bring those incentives in, I think the businesses will follow. Other than that, I think we need to really kind of look at some of the overlays that we have and just make sure that they're business friendly. There's
been talk of sewerage maybe coming to Hanson. I know that was the corridor driving from Main Street. Yeah. There was some discussion about doing that, and that might revitalize that area. Any thoughts?
Well, I'm always for the sewage. I think it's fantastic. I think the idea is we have to make sure the price point's fair, and it's where it doesn't raise people's taxes to a point where they can't live here anymore. So everything comes at a cost. So sewerage is always fantastic. It's always a great idea to bring that in and to increase just the betterments just in general. However, we have to make sure it's right for the tax levies. Make sure that people aren't taxed out of their own towns. We do spend a lot of time, and I'm very mindful of the idea, especially when I have 3 young girls, that I want to give them everything. And we really try to make sure that everybody's family is taken care of. We don't want to forget people that are on fixed incomes, that we don't want to tax them out of their towns that they've called home for generations. So we have to be mindful that although it's a good idea, it has to be mindful and methodical. So theoretically, ideally, I'm all for it. We just got to make sure it's in the best interest of the taxpayers now and for the foreseeable future.
Well, there's no question that Hanson is a beautiful bedroom community. I'm very fortunate that I live here, and both of my daughters have bought houses in Hanson, and they plan on staying, so it doesn't look like I'm going anywhere too soon. So I'm on that same lane with you. Let's make it, but let's not tax them out. Right. But having said that, taxes are rising because costs are rising.
Yep.
Between health insurance and all the different costs, labor, school district, everything comes at a cost, and it does appear that could happen, especially if sewerage came in, although the betterment comes over 20 years or whatever it does. Do you see any instant fix for these escalating costs? Any way to corral it? It's another difficult question, Joe. I'm hitting you over the head with these, I know.
No, it is, and again, it's one of those things I'm going to try and solve the world's problems in this instance in 30 seconds. I think that this is an issue that's not necessarily specific to Hanson in general. Although there are some fixes there, I think we can do a good job with being clever with some of our tax title properties and things along those lines to raise some extra revenue. We have to look at that, though. I mean, we really do. Being on the Planning Board, Housing Authority, and the Capital Improvement Committee, I have information for things that are incredibly important, but I don't have some of the information that I would get if I was on the Board of Selectmen, which is one of the reasons why I'm running, because I want to be able to help solve those problems. That being said, I think it's more of a federal issue, or in some cases a global issue. I was just coincidentally having this conversation in my office. I run a nonprofit behavioral health, what's called a community service agency in Plymouth, and I have a bunch of employees. And we had this discussion because what you said is exactly what we talked about. This idea that cost of living is rising to a point where it's not even keeping pace with increases in premiums for something like health insurance. We had to up someone's health insurance, or a group of people's health insurance, and the raise that we gave them wasn't even enough to compensate the increase in the premium. It's not sustainable. So we have to find ways to be able to do that. And I think that, knowing people like you, for example, being on the school committee, we can have these dialogues, and I love the conversations that we have discussing what are potential solutions to these things. And I think being on a Board of Selectmen seat and just being in that committee in general, I think relationships matter. And I think what helps is being able to have that dialogue, be able to talk about it in open ways, and use our relationships that we've developed over the years to be able to find ways to solve those problems, because they're not easily fixable. And I think that's the thing, is that you have to have somebody that not only has the history around this, has a global view of it, and is able to do it within that 3-year term. You need someone that's going to be able to hit the ground running, who has some understanding of how this is going to look, maybe in a 5-year short-term plan, but a 10-year long-term plan as well.
Joe, you touched on it with the answer to that question. Federal money, grant money, state grant money, is any of that available? I mean, you've been on 3 committees and you're on them now. Is there ever a time when some of that money's available? Because there's discussions that could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's grants opportunities for everything that we just touched on. We have one for the park for the schools, for example. I know that Kaboom does grants for things along those lines. They're highly competitive grants, but there are grants out there. When I was on the Housing Authority, when I first came on, I think it was the 2nd year I was on there, we won from HUD the award for utilizing the most grant money. So I'm very familiar with that. Also in my private life, I work and I am the president of a Mental Health Councils Association. I'm not going to name which one for the sake of that.
It's okay.
But we have just utilized grants opportunities to fund some of the projects for outreach. I'm also happen to be, it's going to stop in June, I'm sad to say it, but I'm the president of a national association as well for mental health, and we use grants all the time. There is money everywhere. The Complete Streets, to a degree, is a grant-funded opportunity for us. A lot of that money is reimbursable. It comes at very low cost to the town. These things are out there, and I'm very fortunate to be put in positions where I know where to look. And we also have good relationships with our representatives, our state representatives, who have been continuously getting us money. They're going through the budget process right now, and they're getting us lots of money to help do some improvements through the town. Very fortunate to have that as well.
Well, having those relationships is very important because the grant money is where it's going to come from.
Yeah.
Taxation, as you said, will be taxing people out of town.
It's unsustainable.
It truthfully is unsustainable. So if you talk about grant money and you think that it's available for just projects,
Yep.
and the streets project is a grant-funded project, when the grants go away, as long as it's done, does it remain sustainable?
Well, that's the thing. I was just about to say that as you were talking, is that you also can't balance a budget off of grants, because once you get the grant, it's not a form of income. It's not a supplemental income for long-term projects. So just to use the streets projects, as you brought it up, that opens us up to other grants that we now become eligible for, which could absolutely improve the town. However, we can't balance a budget off grant funding. We have to find creative ways to be able to use the funds that we actually have, beautify the area, attract more businesses in particular, so we can take the burden off the homeowners within this bedroom community, but be able to find a way to sustainably keep pace with the increasing costs of just day-to-day living. It's incredibly important. My grandparents live here. Not just my grandparents, but on my wife's side, they're all on fixed income. So the idea is my grandfather would kick my butt if I raised his taxes to the point where he had to move out of the town that he introduced me to when I was a baby. So it wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be right to do that. So I think that it's very important to recognize that although there are grant opportunities there, we can't balance a budget off of that. We have to be creative. We have to be resourceful. And I hope to bring that level of resourcefulness on May 19th, if I'm lucky.
Well, the incredible part, Joe, is we've killed almost a half an hour. Can you wrap it up in about a minute of why people should vote for Joseph Weeks for Board of Selectmen?
Well, that's a great question. I just want the people to know that I am a genuine, hardworking, honest individual. I really care about this town. My heart is here. My family lives here. They've been here for a very long time. I really want to do what's right by the people. I really feel like I could do a really good job representing them. And I have the best interest of not only my babies, but also my grandparents and everybody else's. I've had businesses in Hanson. My family's had businesses in Hanson. I have a unique, hopefully, set of experiences that will allow me to not only hit the ground running, but I don't have to learn the job as I go. I'm not going to say I know everything, because that's not the case. But I feel comfortable enough through the interactions that I feel like I can do a really good job starting on day one. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate it. Please vote for me on May 19th.
Well, that kind of wraps up this episode of Bring It On. If you'd like to get a hold of me, my email is bobhayes4433@gmail.com. And thank you for watching. Until next time, bring it on.